So first, I want to talk about the our export. Okay, because yesterday, I think it was yesterday news that Malaysia's our trade export performance hit record. So it's a very amazing, okay, which is an improvement. And 2024, it was a good year for our economy and to a lot of other countries' economy as well. Later, I'll show you also. So Malaysia's trade performance matches records with 2.8 trillion ringgit in 2024. So out of this 2.8 trillion ringgit, majority, more than 50% are the export. Okay, so the export figure is okay, the export figure is 1.5 trillion. Okay, so export figure 1.5 trillion, while the import figure 1.3 trillion. So altogether it's 2.8 trillion. Okay, so this is made up of the export, total export plus the import. Okay, so all in all, we have a net surplus. Exports minus the imports, we have, which is good news for us. And Mitty highlighted that the export to key partners, including ASEAN, the United States, the EU, and Taiwan, saw growth with exports to the US and Taiwan reaching record highs. Okay, so this is something I want to talk to you about. Our export to Taiwan has reached record highs. Our export to China has reduced, but the Taiwan has increased. And Taiwan has officially become Malaysia's fourth largest trading partner, reflecting stronger bilateral ties and expanding trade opportunities. So what you can see is that, remember I think last week we were talking about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? So we are the tier 2, whereby US will restrict the on the tariff and export those CPU sets into Malaysia. And but if you were to look at here, Taiwan is the tier 1. Okay, so doesn't this sound like Malaysia is exporting to the tier 1 country like Taiwan, and then from Taiwan maybe re-export to US? Okay, maybe it's like that, because since Taiwan is considered as a tier 1, they don't have any restrictions, so they can export freely. So now, because ASEAN is part of the countries which are in radar, because the US thinks that a lot of the Chinese manufacturing company, they come to ASEAN country, and then from ASEAN country, then we export to US. So now, looks like the game is changing to Taiwan now. And the ministry also noted that free trade agreement have played a crucial role in providing local business with wider access to international markets. Okay, so Canada was among the countries that recorded export growth. Okay, so and especially the E&E sector, electronic and electrical. So this is our export figure. And in fact, you see that Singapore latest non-oil domestic exports, they also see that their exports increase, and particularly to Taiwan. Okay, you see exports increased mainly to Taiwan, 50%, account for 50% of the total export, while the US is 30%, Thailand is 27%, Malaysia is 24%. So you can imagine the now they are playing this game. Okay, they export to Taiwan, and then maybe from Taiwan export to US. Okay, and then while falling trade to China declined. Okay, because China know that since US is restricting, right? So then they just play around, and then using another country as a hub. okay, trading hub. So this one is the Malaysia one, December, and then we have a sharp increase in our export figure. Okay, and then mainly it's driven by what? It's driven by the E&E product, machinery and equipment, petroleum and agriculture, driven by palm oil and related products. Okay, so these are the components of the export. So we are also looking at other new markets contributed to export growth, particularly to countries such as Bangladesh, Costa Rica, and Egypt, and notably Kenya, Oman, Namibia. So these are all Africa countries. So meaning that we are expanding our export to these emerging market as well, developing market. Okay. So on the product front, export growth in 2024 was fueled by strong demand for manufactured goods and agriculture products. So this included significant increases in the E&E goods, okay, which is the semiconductors, and machinery, equipment, processed food, and optical and scientific products. So look like the E&E, the demands are increasing. This was the December figure. Okay, so we are in January, we are reporting the December figure. Palm oil and related agricultural products, metal manufactured goods, and rubber products also contributed to the overall growth. Okay, so all in all, it was a good news for the export industry. So, okay, I want to find deeper into the Malaysia export, what kind of goods to Taiwan. So Malaysia export mainly the E&E product. Okay, so this E&E product, so you can imagine what is the reason behind. And then you have the optical and scientific equipment, manufacturing of the metal, chemical and chemical product, and petroleum, but mainly are the E&E products. Okay, so now let's take a look at the China. China also records year of record of their trade. China trade surplus hit a record in 2024. Okay, but the threat of the US tariffs looms. So this was article contributed by Noah Berman. Okay, so he was writing in the Wire. So I pick up his article is because I find that the research that he has done is quite thorough. So according to this article, right? So these are the extract from the article. China almost 1 trillion trade. So 1 trillion USD trade surplus for 2024 is the largest by any nation since the World War II. Okay, so this trade surplus meaning that your total export minus your import, you got 1 trillion trade surplus. Okay, so this is by far the largest since the World War II. So which means what? Which means that China basically has the upper hand, okay, in terms of the export. While their economy doesn't look so good, but look at what they have done, okay? They have successfully export all the excess capacity to the whole world, to the rest of the whole world. And they managed to get trade surplus, the biggest trade surplus by far. And so this means that they import not much, but then they export a lot. Okay. And this is the countries that show the growth. Where do they export to? The orange color is that the export grew by more than 15%. Okay, so we have to focus on the orange color first. So the largest export growth are Brazil, Malaysia, Indonesia, and then Vietnam. Okay, so these are the largest growth. So meaning that China export to us and then export to Brazil biggest. Okay, the growth is a lot. And the green color also interesting is double digit as well, 10 to 15% growth. So which is also quite interesting. And this will be this Latin America. okay, Latin America, and then you have the Mexico, and you have this one. Let me. This area is Thailand. Okay, Thailand, Myanmar, this area. Okay, so basically you are looking at Southeast Asia, the whole of Southeast Asia, plus the South America. Okay, these two continents, China export a lot. And then the blue color are the 0.0 to 5% growth, which is the US, and then the Africa, India, and all this Russia, smaller growth. Okay, so which means that the trade, these are very important trading partners of the China. Okay, and China exports grew worldwide. Okay, Brazil number one, Vietnam, okay, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Taiwan, France. Okay, so all these and the EU country will be the France and Germany. If you are looking at the EU, the only Western countries are the France and Germany, and then followed by the US. Okay, so you can see that no longer US become like important trading partner. It was replaced by all these countries. Okay. And at the same time, the US has become the largest customer for the Southeast Asian goods. So meaning that while the customer base, the US, that means the Southeast Asian country will export a lot to the US. Okay. So while the China has cut down the export to the US, but it is actually replaced by Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam. So this is the correlation. The blue color line is the China export to ASEAN, and then the yellow color will be ASEAN export to the US. So which means that what this actually tells us is that China will treat the ASEAN as their trading hub. Okay, so they will export to ASEAN countries, while ASEAN repackaging or whatever, then value added, whatever, then ASEAN export to the US. Okay, so you have a very, very strong correlation. So that is why the US they come up with this tariff on the tier one, tier two, and tier three. So then we are the ASEAN country, so we are the tier two, because they have seen such a strong correlation that the China is using us to export to US. So in the end, China still enjoy export. Okay, so that is the story. The story is that no matter how you suppress China, you want to restrict China from growing, you want to impose tariff, but China seems to be finding a way around it. Okay, so they would change the destination instead of direct exporting to US. They change the destination to ASEAN country then export to the US. Okay, so now with this new tier one, tier two thing, maybe they will change the destination to Taiwan. From Taiwan, then export. Okay, or they are still exporting to ASEAN, but the ASEAN will export to Taiwan, and then from Taiwan, then export to US. Okay, so you beat around the bush, and then and still yet the beneficiary is still China. Okay, so you see how it is being played, this trade war game. So there is they are not able to suppress any country. Okay, when a country need to grow, they will grow. They will find their means to grow. And also the good export is also driven by relatively cheaper yuan. Okay, the yuan has also appreciated. And what are the items that are exporting? So you can see that China exported more machinery and electronics in the 2024 than anything else. So the number one biggest export item that made up of such a huge trade surplus, in fact, is their computers and related equipment. and then followed by the IC, integrated circuit, and then the garments and things like that. So no longer you see that the garments and the clothing are the number one export item. It's replaced by the computer thing, computer related items and the integrated circuit, which is so called the which is, sorry, which is so called the chip, the legacy chip. Okay, it's part of it as well. So you can imagine the tariff that they imposed on China. Does it work? No, it didn't work at all. Okay, maybe it does help to slow down. Okay, if without the tariff, maybe it will be happening even faster, maybe 2 years ago, but now maybe happening in 2024. But the after the inauguration of Donald Trump with the Donald Trump 2.0, so we'll be looking at maybe they will still be playing the tariff game, but maybe they will be changing the method, the tactics. Okay, they should be looking at how they want to play the game because the looking at the results, it's not so easy to suppress any one country. Indeed, it is exports of these high value added products that are growing. Okay, it's not the low value added, it's a high value added, which are the chips. Okay, so which is IC and which is also known as the microchip sales. Overseas rose 17% last year, and the value of car exports rose 16%. Meanwhile, exports of rare earths fell significantly as China consolidated control over the global battery supply chain. So you see, they are they are also restricting on the exports of rare earths because they want to control the all these important material for the battery as well as for the semiconductors. Okay. So on the import side, China's trade data offers little to indicate that the US-led chip controls are reducing the country's supply of the semiconductors. So China imported more microchips by quantity last year than in any year since 2021. So while they are restricting the exports of chips to China, right? But it looks like the China are also importing lots of all these chips, lots of it. Okay. And also at the same time, China's import from the Netherlands, home of the key chip equipment supplier ASML, the largest European tech firm by market cap, rose by 11%. So which means that among all these imports, right, a huge bulk of it is actually from the Netherlands, which is ASML based. So the company was on pace to ship almost half of its sales to China last year. Can you imagine one company, ASML, they are looking at half of their sales revenue are to China. So which means that China is their largest customer by far, okay, than any other country in the world. China is their largest, biggest client. So with such a strong client or the revenue, right? So how do you think ASML would want to restrict the sales to China? Because since they are making so much money from China, how do you think they want to restrict the sales? They won't be listening to the US because they want to take care of their own pocket as well. Okay, so they will continue to export. Maybe because of maybe they exported less. They should have exported more, but then they exported less. Okay, so who knows? Or maybe before the Trump 2.0, they wanted to export more first. So that's why you see a surge in the export to China. Okay, because they're worried that after Trump 2.0, things may change. So then before the Trump 2.0, they quickly export. Okay. So yeah, so you can see that the war are still playing and look at the year-on-year percentage change in China's export. So what kind of goods do China export in terms of the year-on-year change? So you can see that ship increase, the export in terms of the ship increase. by percentage. Okay, the largest increase is the ship, and then followed by the integrated circuit, and then by the motor vehicles, and then by the aluminium and all those things. So looks like the legacy chip, the EV car, and now you have this new info, which is the ship as well. Okay, I wonder what kind of ship, but looks like it's the carrier, those kind of tankers and carrier for logistics. Okay. So many economists have suggested that the Chinese exporters are ramping up shipments ahead of the President-elect Donald Trump's return to the White House. But these concerns are not overly apparent in the Chinese trade data. Money exports to the US rose around 5% between October to December, but the EU, where there's no immediate tariff impetus to boost trade, rose by even more nominally and proportionally. So meaning that lots of exports, okay, ahead of the Trump. Okay. So tariff two, a look at the value of China's money export to US and to the EU. So you can see that the US has actually increased, whereas the EU is this. Okay, so while you are having tariffs, but still, despite of the tariff, China still export increase to the US. Okay. And take a look at the GDP growth. For GDP growth for the 2024, the 2024, it was a strong growth. 2023 and 2024, it was strong growth for the China economy, which looking at 4 to 5% growth. Okay, 4 to 5% growth, which we consider good. Okay, because this is a very large economy. If you can grow by 4 to 5%, I think that is a good growth. Despite domestically they have lagging in their own domestic demand. Okay, if you were to visit China, you can see that many people are out of job, a lot of retrenchment, it's hard to find jobs, and foreign investors are leaving. So these are all true facts in China. But the thing is that while domestically they cannot have that kind of a demand, they are actually looking at the rest of the world. Okay, because the domestically they cannot absorb the production because they are like a big giant factory. The whole of China is like you look at China as a big giant factory. They are very productive. They keep on producing. Okay, they in terms of manufacturing, they keep on producing. But the local people is not well to do because of the economy slowdown, recession. So they cannot absorb locally. So while they cannot absorb locally, then they think abroad, they think overseas. So then they export to the rest of the world. So that's why you see the surge in their trade figure. Okay, they are able to export all the cheap products. And what are the cheap products? Number one is the EV car. Number two is the solar energy panel. And now number three will be the chip, the integrated circuit, the chip, okay, the legacy chip. So these are all to a lot of people, they are able to produce at a cheaper cost. Okay, so people will still buy because when you are looking at economy slowdown, people are getting poorer. Okay, in the sense is that inflation that make people feel poorer. So when you're poorer, you want to make your money work better for you, so you buy cheaper goods. Okay, so when you buy cheaper goods, then you will turn to Chinese goods. Okay, so then for Taiwan, the GDP also increased. The first quarter of the 2024, it was 6%, then followed by 5%, then followed by 4%. Okay, so there is a decline in terms of the growth rate, but still managed to maintain at above 4%. Okay, which is considered strong growth as well. And while you look at Malaysia, we are also doing very well because we are also achieving above 5% growth for Q3 and Q2, and then below the 5% for Q1 and Q4. Okay, so which is also quite good growth. Compare, of course, better, much better than the 2023, because 2023 you see that our growth was very, very slow. Okay, it was like 3%. So now looking forward 2025, do you think that we are able to continue with this 5% growth? Okay, do you think we are able to continue? You can type in the chat. Okay, how many of you think that for 2025 we are able to achieve on average 5% growth? Okay, Nancy say yes. Okay, so looking at this one whole year, okay, to me my figure, my estimate is around 4%. Okay, that's my estimate. 4 to 4.5%. Okay, so that is my estimate. And that is because I see that the whole world is looking at more challenging in terms of the export market. Okay, we are looking at more competition from the China side. Okay, so that is what I'm looking at. But nevertheless, with the Trump 2.0, people are observing what are the next move. Okay, because it looks like Trump he wanted to make America great again. Okay, so he has actually reiterated that during the inauguration. So he wants to make America come first. Okay, everything they don't care, they just want the best for the US. So they will protect. There will be more protectionism. Okay, and but the very first thing they want to do is to have a border emergency order for the border, whereby they will repatriate those illegal immigrants back to their own country, which is back to the Mexico. And then he said he will increase the tariff, but he hasn't announced yet the details of how he's going to increase. But everybody is looking at that. But he also said that he wanted to visit China. He wanted to visit Xi Jinping in China within 100 days, which is within the next 3 months. So most likely, I would think that the trade tariff will be looking at the announcement of the trade policies after his visit to China. Okay, so that's his normal behavior. So he always visit first, shake hand, and then say hi, and then like a good buddy. And then when he turn around, go back, he will face face, and then he will have a lot of tariffs come out. Okay, so you will be expecting that to happen. So not within the maybe not within the first 3 months, but then after the 3 months. Okay. So no more cheap labor in the US and high tariff. What will be the impact to the US? Inflation. Okay. So in fact, people are already looking at raising the interest rate instead of cutting the interest rate for the US. They are looking at raising the interest rate. Can you imagine? What a big move, right? So people are looking at inflation happening when the tariff pick off inflation, and then followed by rate hike. Okay, so when that happens, followed by the rate hike, when that happens, normally the vulnerable stock will be the tech stock, because the tech sectors are very highly sensitive to the interest rate. We have seen that in the 2022 when we have a series of rate hike, then the tech stock all came down for almost one whole year. So if this were to happen, then we're going to see that. Okay, but it will not be so fast, because the tariff, as I expect, it will be after 3 months. So it will be around somewhere in the mid of the month, mid-year, around mid-year. And then the inflation impact will come at the end of the year. Okay, so which means that you won't be seeing rate hike until next year. Okay, towards the year end or the next year. So which means that I think this year the tech stocks are still good. Okay, to me, I feel that the tech stocks are still good, because the interest rate it may still be mild. Okay, meaning that either they will maintain it or they cut a little bit. Okay, they won't cut a lot, but they cut a little bit or they maintain it maybe up to the year end. Okay, unless there's a sudden surge in the inflation. Okay, but now I haven't seen that yet, so we will see.